We seem to be starting from the wrong place, right? We say, I am, or we are, because this is the reality of the situation, the immediate present. This is the only thing that exists. If if someone shoots you with an arrow, you shouldn't be busy worrying about why they shot you with an arrow or like anything. You should be worrying about the fact that there is an arrow in your leg and you need to deal with that right now. And this is the type of thinking that we bring to everyday reality. We don't really consider the context that it exists in, right? Because I am a person. But what we don't think about, that it's a tremendous game, but the perspective absolutely changes when you stop thinking I am and you realize that you came to be. You are here fundamentally because your mom and your dad had sex, and then there was a body, and then since there was a body mind, and because it exists within the essence of existence itself, and behind that, as you'll understand if you understand, you are God. You are consciousness. And this is another thing I want to talk on. Science threw out God a long time ago. Why? Well, if you follow it, what do they think God is? Well, God is some man in the sky that created the universe by saying, "Let there be light." And everything came to pass and all that, and it was great. I'm literally in the process of reading the Bible right now. It's absolutely beautiful. I just got to King David. I started like 2 weeks ago. I'm listening to it as an audiobook for like 5 to 10 hours a day, so it makes sense. Because for a long time I've listened to lectures and stuff, I'm able to absorb stuff at that rate. And so, yeah, the story of the Bible it's fresh in my mind. But that's what we think God is. We're trapped in this model, and as someone whose life is at the feet of the cross, I understand. But also as someone who sits in a lotus, I understand where we went wrong. Because we got caught in this model. All methods are traps. All models are methods. We got caught in thinking that there is this external God, and what you're seeking is outside of you. But if you actually look in the Bible, there's a really, really magnificent, beautiful clue, which is that God's name is I am. And who are you? Well, I am Jacob. Stop! Who are you? I am... Stop! Who are you? You are God. And and as I say you are God, I hear it. You are God. Who do you think you are? Who do you think God? Who do you think I am? What do you think's going on? And what I think is going on, it's not a matter of, because that thought is looking from the perspective of I'm me, I'm the one in the body. I am the one in the body. I am the one in the body. Well, what body? The body of the universe, the body of the earth, including the atmosphere, the body of this house, the body of this, the body of my mind, the body of my heart. Do I exist as a single atom that is conscious and then manipulates this whole thing? And you can run through all the thoughts, and it's beautiful, but what you always come to every single time, if you have a great enough understanding and if you're really looking with eyes unclouded by longing, is that nothing exists in the first place, kind of in a certain way. Whereas, okay, you listen to your favorite song. I don't know what my favorite song is at the moment, but and it's amazing, and you go, whoa, this is my favorite song, and then you play it over and over again. 50 times. And the 50th time you're listening to it, and you're just like, okay, yeah, this is a good song, yeah. And then you listen to 100 times, and what you find is it's completely empty. And it could have the most profound lyrics, within you, without you. Fucking love that song. It's absolutely amazing. Give it a listen. But if you listen to it 50 times, you realize that it's completely empty. It's an audio file. That thing, when you hear it, it's a reality. It is very real, and you get sucked into it, and it's amazing. It's beautiful. Life goes on within you and without you. And then you can hear the realities that they're talking about, and it's a real big jam. But at some point, this higher level awareness comes in that what you are experiencing is absolutely 100% empty. And it's very strange, and it's absolutely everything you do. You get a house, and it's super exciting. It's literally the life cycle. You birth, and then life, and then death. That is how everything goes. Everything that was created will ultimately decreate, die. This can be viewed through the laws of thermodynamics, where as time goes on, entropy increases. And so what that means is any sustained system, and I just talked about this, but any sustained system over time it's subject to chaos. It's subject to the world around it. And so something's going to go wrong. It will need maintenance. And if it doesn't get that maintenance, Shiva will come. It will die. It will be destroyed. It will once again merge with what is. And what is the thing that was before the beginning of time. And you don't understand that, and same what will be after time. And you don't understand that. You can't understand that because you are an I. And I is inside of this universe. But when you realize that you are not in this universe, your body is in this universe, your body, mind, everything, all of the medium through which I talk to you, it's all here. But close your eyes and then open them again, but pretend they're still closed. You find that your senses operate. You don't watch anything. You don't listen to anything. You are absolutely 100% focused on the breath. But what you find is that the senses work naturally. They work on their own accord. And then everything, absolutely everything is like that. Everything exists independently, completely in and of itself. Nothing outside of it. But then you find that everything is absolutely interconnected, and this can be viewed through two ways. One is that at the core of it, it's interconnected, and the second is that it lives within an ecosystem, right? Like a cat is completely sufficient in and of itself. I mean, look at him. He's absolutely beautiful, even though he's doing something he's not supposed to. Absolutely beautiful. Completely self-sufficient. It could just sit in the Buddha. He could sit in a lotus posture like that forever, for eternity. But what you find is that whatever it is, it exists within an environment. And the environment is now different because from its perspective, there's subject and object. There's me and then there's everything around me. But from the perspective of something around me, it looks out into the world and there's me and everything around me. And so me is part of their world. And I go back to the Lotus Man and I am me and that is part of my world. But when you're in the Lotus and if you're actually meditating, if you're actually getting to the space that is the moon that the finger is pointing to, it's all interconnected. There is no in and out. There is no me and other. It is all one. And this is the fundamental truth. And everything is interconnected. Everything comes from somewhere, right? So you could say that I am a person that I work at a place, and so I am a worker. But when I am working, this thought comes, which is that stop being the worker and let the work do itself, right? So me specifically, there's a bunch of boxes. They're on a conveyor belt. I have to take them off the conveyor belt, stack them into a truck. Super monotonous, beautiful, repetitious, meditative exercise. But I could be busy thinking that I am definitely the one who is in this door, right? This goes back in the now reality where someone is shot in the leg. Like, you shouldn't worry about how it came to be or anything like that. You need to worry about the right now, present moment. Well, what are my right now, present moment things? Well, I'm in a house talking to a phone. But if I'm working, my right now, present understanding is that I am the stacker of boxes. And this is true. Until you realize that if I didn't show up to work, if I died, if I got fired, if for some reason I wasn't there, someone would take my place, and that person would think that they are the stacker of boxes. But let's say all humanity, we just decided that warehouse functions were absolutely unnecessary, which they are. But and we would completely replace the whole thing by machines, and there was just like a few overseers who just made sure nothing went wrong, and a few super geniuses who just made sure the whole thing was running properly all the time. But other than that, there was no like manual labor. Well, then that robot would be the stacker of boxes. So who is the real stacker of boxes? Is it me? Is it my coworker? Is it the robot? What you realize is that the stacking of boxes is an activity in and of itself. And that when you go to perform that activity, you cease to be you. You can carry with you your body, mind, your whole history of who you think you are, and that's great. But it's actually not great, because what happens is, let's say you're having a good day and you do a bunch, and so, ooh, it's amazing. But then you have a bad day and your thoughts are getting in the way, and so you have bad build quality and you're not doing enough, and you're not meeting quota. You got yellow lights, which basically means that you're slow. You need to hurry up. You're stopping the rest of the building from functioning properly. So hurry up. Do better. And so essentially, and then as that escalates, you're in a worse mood, and then it's harder to do it, and then there's more work to be done in a shorter amount of time, but you still have to do it with high quality, and then it's stressful, and then that's what happens when you get caught thinking that you are the stacker of boxes. But when you let the boxes come down the conveyor belt and stack themselves, because they have this motion, right? They come from inbound, ooh, they go up on the meds, ooh, and then they come all the way to outbound, ooh, and then they come down the specific conveyor belt. The whole system's genius. I want to understand it. But I want to understand it better. But it comes down the conveyor belt. What's the next step? It goes into the truck, and then it goes from the truck to the store, and then to the store, someone unloads it, which is basically starting the whole process over again, except that person's not in a warehouse, they're in the actual store, and so they take the freight, they unbox it, and then they put it on the shelves. And so that whole process exists completely outside of me. And so, but there is this one point in the process that is unfulfilled. What is it? There's a person that needs to take, the boxes need to go from conveyor belt to truck in an orderly fashion. Okay, I step in, but I use this, I see that function needs to be fulfilled. I could see this as a dharma. And then I go and I fulfill the dharma. But I am not doing it. It needs to happen. Something needs to do it. If I don't do it, something else will. And so let's say someone just had this. If I don't do it, someone else will. Well, I'm the someone else. And so it's not a matter of me doing it. It's a matter of that guy. He's too lazy to do it. And so he won't do it. And so someone has to. Something has to. For this process to be fulfilled, someone has to be the stacker of boxes. But you don't realize that as you stack the boxes, you didn't exist. The person that you are right now did not exist 5 minutes ago when you weren't stacking boxes. when you were doing something else, you were involved in a separate process which exists completely in and of itself. But this is the thing I was talking about. As things manifest on this plane of existence, whatever that means, they have to interact. But before they manifest, they were nothing. They were completely empty. They were absolute. And then they manifest as something that is themselves. All they know is I am. I am this system. I am this awareness. I am whatever this is. I just know that I exist. And this is the manner in which I exist. And it can't explain it, but an observer can see and woo, and then it can be processed in the mind. And it's beautiful. But then it manifests out of that archetypal state, out of that essence, into a reality. But as this happens, all the other essence, all the other things, they are also have manifest in this reality, and they have been, and they will be. And so you realize, why is this thing coming to this reality? And I went over this bit. I'm just now developing this bit. It's not like a bit in my mind, but I can see it emerging as a bit. So a bit is just like a self-enclosed thing it's like a crystal. It's a self-enclosed piece of information. It's a lecture. It's a sentence. It's a meaning. It's a bit of information. As it manifests into this world is inhabited, and so it coexists with everything. And since it coexists with everything, it is absolutely interconnected, but it does not exist in an interconnected state. It exists in and of itself. Remember, it came from the essence of what it is. And so now it's here, it is still that, but it is also this. And what is this? Well, you can see it like a person, right? Who am I? I am me. I'm me, and I can take that to the grave, and I am me. I'm this person. I am Jacob. And so I come into the world, and I'm like, woo, I am Jacob, and I have all my things. And so, but then I find that not only do I exist, not only was I born into this body and had to figure out how to operate and how to live and all that stuff, I was born into a family, which is inside of a community, which is inside of a larger community, which is like a state, which is in the United States, which is a country within, and the whole thing expands. And it's always like this. And why do I exist? I don't exist on my own accord. I exist because my parents had sex. And there I was. And then, but as I went on, I developed a me. And I am me. I am not my parents. I am very far from both of my parents. I am very clearly my own person. But at the same time, all of my genetic material can be traced back to my ancestors. And I would not exist if it weren't for my ancestors. And that is the nature of reality. Seems to be, at least, where everything exists independently and interconnectedly. And when you operate from that point of view, you stop being poor little me. You stop being a person walking around in a body that is subject to it's just me and the universe. No, it's just the universe. Universe. And it's beautiful. And then you look at the universe, and it's made of billions of stars, which are made of trillions of particles, they probably exist within a continuum as well. But when you refer to the universe, you refer to the universe out of that continuum, out of that context. But we forget that we are talking about the universe from within that context. We just think that we are talking about the universe. We don't remember that we are me within an us. We just operate as if it's a me. And I can be a part of an us, but I am not an us. I am a me. And then there's us, and let's say I completely merge with the us. Okay, so it's not about me anymore. It's about the greater good of the group. And this is the fundamental divide between Republican and Democrat. Because Republicans say that the self should sacrifice itself for the greater whole. And the Democrats say that the greater whole should serve the purpose of making a better life for the self. But the reality is that they should benefit each other, right? I should sacrifice myself for the greater good of the whole, but the greater good of the whole should serve me. And so, since this, it's like the hand that feeds me, the hand that feeds me I should not disrespect it. In fact, if it feeds me and then it tells me to fetch, I should fetch. And then I fetch and I bring it back and then it feeds me. And then I fetch and I bring it back and it feeds me. And the problem is where we get caught on either side. The problem is when we identify it as, I'm Republican, I'm Democrat. You do not see that that is yin and yang, not like an extraction, not like some metaphor. That is yin and yang. And the yin and yang could be at war with each other or they could be dancing together. Which one do you want to do? And that's that thought. But that is the essence of what is happening. You realize that you are a thing and you are made out of things and that you make up things. And you have to figure out how to exist within this context. But that is not what you get when you come out of school, when you go into school. That's not what you get at all. No one talks about that. School says you are a person and you should strive for success, and here's how to be successful. But Hitler was very successful. Not a good man. You should not strive to be Hitler. So success shouldn't be what we're striving after. Freedom. What about freedom? Okay? My mind just wants to take the absolute extreme. So it was thinking of Hannibal Lecter. He was free. He could do whatever the hell he wanted. And he did do whatever the hell he wanted. And look where that got, not even look where that got him. You don't want to be that. And so it's not about success. It's not about freedom. It's not about any one thing. Because everything exists within a continuum. And if you don't, when you realize the implications of that, it changes the game entirely. Like, for example, you realize that we are all one self. So if I realize that we are all one self, how is my right hand going to stab my left hand? In the same way, how am I going to kill somebody else? How am I going to steal from anybody else? That just puts more paranoia in the system. And that is what's happening. That is what exists over and over again. That is the only way that I know how to say it. And I feel like part of the human purpose of human life is to say it. But we don't, because we don't know what's going on. And we just kind of accept that. And we also accept suffering as a baseline of existence, which, good on us. We've, at very least, that means that to that extent, the male dominant mind has accepted suffering. I feel like that is part of the reason why we exist in this time period, because if you look at it in a greater context, we were once monkey humans. Not really, but for lack of a better term, we were monkey people. And then if you go by Terence McKenna's thing, we lived in these orgiastic groups. It was a complete harmony where we would just mate and then hunt and then gather, and then from this we developed agriculture, and everything was very beautiful until we lost the feminine side of reality, which I think is really archetypally demonstrated in Rome and Greece. And that whole scene, the Old Testament thing that I'm reading right now, it's the emergence. Right, the Garden of Eden is this idea. It's a feminine idea of complete, absolute beauty, freedom. But it's balanced, and that's the amazing thing. And this doesn't seem to be in line with real human experience, because that very clearly to me was made by God. The Garden of Eden, because men were to work the field. There was responsibility implicit in that freedom. That is yin and yang. They balanced each other out. it's not just one or the other. You're not completely free to do whatever you want, but you're not, because you don't want to be free to do whatever you want. Because who are you? You're a selfish, impulsive monkey that doesn't do what you think you want. Because after you get what you want, then the question is, what next? What next? What next? And so when you fulfill all your desires, Alan Watts has this really beautiful thing about when you take pleasure fulfillment to the extreme, what you find is, back to ancient Greece/Rome, where they would strip women and then throw them out into the Colosseum to be eaten by lions. And that's how they got a kick. So when you really exercise pleasure and freedom or whatever, you end up in hell. And this is what happens everywhere. Because same thing, if you totalitarianism. Not communism. There's some idea, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's something in that ballpark where essentially the Republican idea that I was talking, where the self exists solely to serve the greater purpose, and if you don't like it, too bad. And I'm getting images of like Nazi Germany, where they just had the Jews just working nonstop. That's hell. And so you can't give anyone entire freedom because they create hell. And you can't enforce any system, no matter how perfect the system is. You can't enforce it because that creates hell. And so what you have to understand, what everyone in the system has to understand, is that they exist in a system. And that is the greater context that I'm referring to. I was talking about how the Western mind, I feel like the purpose of the Western mind is the reason we're developing in this period of time. We're learning how to use the mind. We're learning how to categorize the world, because when you're a monkey, you can't categorize the world. You're like, that's berry, that's predator. That's food, that's snake. That's basically... That's where you at, and you see the world and you perceive it like a baby. But what do we do with babies? Because if babies turn into children are chaos embodied, and they're exploring the world. And so what do? We teach them. And if you take that and extract what it's supposed to be, because I am very against the school system, the way it exists right now, but I am very, very, very pro-education, as you can imagine. And so what you find is that we're developing the Western mind, what I am calling the Western mind, which is the analytical mind, just the mind in general, how to operate that. Because, like I said in my last video, I feel like one of the major purposes of human life in general is to turn entropy into novelty, is to turn chaos into order. It's the same exact, and you go back to Genesis, and it's the same thing. God made God made man in His image. And what did He do? There was originally the chaotic waters that covered absolutely everything. What is water? It's chaos. It's beautiful. But what is water? It is absolute formless chaos. But it's not formless because you look in it, and then there are waves, and so it's not empty, but it's. And then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And then He separated the waters from the waters. He created space, and then from that space and then He brought about beauty. That's what He did, and that's what we do. And that, it's this whole process. It's fractal. It's beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. And so I honestly think Terence McKenna was right about the transcendental object at the end of time, which was 2012. Essentially, everything's supposed to collapse right then. I think what happened is the start of a greater shift. As I think I said, I'm pretty sure he was in a universe where it actually did collapse. But the one that we are in right now, there's definitely some shift that happened in 2012. This is only like a few years later, but as the time grows, the more it's like, huh. And I don't see it as like a world-shifting thing, but it's like we're at the beginning of a new era, and what is this? Well, what does it look like? It seems, at least from my perspective, that there is everything that we have amounted, and the culmination of that is the nuclear bomb. We have harnessed the ability of stars. What stars do, these things that are magnitudes larger than the earth, we have harnessed the fundamental core of what makes them them. And we can now use it. That is the most, and that is the brain, that is the child of the brain right there. That is pure 100% science. Hoorah! And you get that very male feeling of everything is strict, absolutely in order, laser sharp, and this is what you get, and it's beautiful. But it's deadly, and it's terrifying, and we are impulsive monkeys, and we have nuclear abilities. And so what you need in that is a feminine counterpart. And I feel like that's what, since 2012, we're going to start to develop. What is the feminine? It's the ethereal, it's the spiritual, it's the realization that we threw the baby out with the bathwater when we said that there was no God in science. Because science doesn't allow for God, because God doesn't need to exist. Number one, that doesn't mean it doesn't. Number two, this is built in a wrong not in a wrong understanding of God, in an egoic understanding of God. We are egos, and so we look at God, we think of the concept of God, and we project ego. It's the same thing, a jnani, when it looks a completely high spiritual being, it interacts with everyone as if they are high spiritual beings. They could be in the grocery store, the same grocery store that you walk around in. It would look at you and then see that you are an enlightened Buddha. And it operates in that world. And so it's the same thing. And we're doing the same thing because we're like jnanas, which are unenlightened beings. And so we project the enlightened being. You cross the guy in the store, you don't think that he's enlightened. There's nothing particular about this guy. His eyes aren't shining. He's not wearing holy robes or anything. He just looks like a normal person. And so you project that he's an egoic being, just like you. But he's completely egoless. And it's beautiful. But we have that with God. We were like, God must be some guy who orders everything and he created everything and he did in 7 days, and it's like that. And since we put these really, as Christians, as Catholics, or I don't understand the entire history of it, but as we put these really strict things, it must have happened exactly like this. The way that the Bible said it, it happened exactly like this. And the one that sticks out for me the biggest is the 7-day creation. The dance that I really like, that sticks out for me, that I like talking about, is how at first when there was the discovery of dinosaurs and fossils and stuff like that, the church was like, oh no, these cannot exist. God did not say them in the Bible. Nowhere does it say dinosaur, therefore no dinosaur. And then science proved dinosaurs. And the church said, no dinosaurs, no. And like even to this day, I'm pretty sure there are some people who are like, no dinosaurs because God. And I am like, yes, God, yes, dinosaurs. Anyway, and yes, Big Bang. And anyway, what were created before man? What was before all the animals and stuff like that? It was the birds of the sky and the fish of the sea. What do we now know from analyzing fossils that dinosaurs were? The birds of the sky and fish of the sea. And it's absolutely beautiful. And he gave them the original blessing that he gave us, which was be fruitful and multiply. That is the first blessing in the Bible, and it is given to a species that reigned for 35 million years, or whatever. I pulled 35 out of my ass, but millions of years. Hundreds of millions. What am I even talking about? Dinosaurs existed for a very long time. And it's beautiful. That is a beautiful thing in my mind. But what I can extract from that is that, because let me go over it again. There was a time where church ruled everything. That was a time. Church ruled everything. And then as science is emerging, it says dinosaurs. And this isn't actually how it goes, but play with me here. They say dinosaurs. Church says absolute no dinosaurs. Church's Bible, no dinosaurs. And so science proves dinosaurs. Dinosaurs absolutely exist. And then after they went about proving dinosaurs, they found out that dinosaurs were the ancestors to modern day birds, and that obviously there were sea creatures. And so these are the two types of things. And then you look in the Bible, and it says exactly what science found. But the church, as whatever it is, as an egoic construct, as a system of people that were very systematized, and this is the reoccurring theme. This is the problem with this, because it's beautiful because we can develop the nuclear bomb. It's beautiful because we can develop AI. It's terrible because it's so strict that it creates war within itself. It says if there is a single division between what I believe and what you believe, or what I see is real and you see is real, then that means that one of us is right or both of us are wrong. And that statement, or both of us are wrong, that is an open-minded statement. But the Western mind is not open-minded. It takes what it has and it measures the entire world against that. And if the world doesn't fit into its categories, then it takes a very, very long time before it realizes that it needs to expand its categories. And that is the flip to the feminine. The feminine accepts everything exactly as it is. This is obviously how the models are in my mind. And this has nothing to do with like man or woman, because like each conscious individual is their own conscious individual. What the body that they woke up in it. It had nothing to do with them. So if they're black, so if they're woman, so if they lived 2,000 years ago, so if all of that is completely out of the individual's control, at least from the perspective of the individual. And so to say that this is a masculine concept and this is a feminine concept and you're a female, therefore you are like this, that is incorrect. But from a yin and yang perspective, from a positive and negative perspective, because everything exists, like I talked about, everything, when it comes into existence, there's a dualistic nature to it, because I'm starting to work out, because we're in a third dimensional universe. What that means is we see the world in two dimensions. The picture you are seeing right now is a two-dimensional picture and of a three-dimensional rendering. And so in the fourth dimension, theoretically, you'd be able to see 3 dimensions. You would be able to see if something is covered by another thing, you could see both of those things, because the mode in which you exist is beyond the third dimension. And so you see in 3 dimensions, you see this fourth dimensional rendering in 3 dimensions. So likewise, we see this third dimensional rendering in second dimension. And so what that entails is that there's an observer. No. Stop. There's a left mind and a right mind. But you are one mind. You are one being. There is us, and then there's them. And then from the other perspective, there's us, and there is them. But then there's the heart, because left mind, right mind, left mind, and then there's the heart that encompasses them all. And like there's this symbolism that I see in it, and it's beautiful, because who am I? I am the one in the body. I am the body. Is the body observed? Yes. Am I the one in the body? No, because that is observed. So who am I? I am the witnessing. Is the witnessing observed? So there's this place from where the witnessing arises. And I'm getting there mentally right now, but I've been there like through the meditation. There's the place in which the witnessing is observed. And then there's the witness. And so can the witness Can the witness observe the witness? And the answer is no. The observer can observe the observed. The observer can observe the observed. And then when I am the observed, I can observe the observer. But the observer cannot observe itself, and the observed cannot observe itself. It's a feedback loop where ultimately there's this phrase that I have. There's the God of the Lord of Lords and the Lord of the God of Gods. And the being that is above them all, that's it. That's God. That is... Because the Lord of Lords... You can see where I got that. But this is what... There's this dance where everything that comes into manifestation, this plane of existence, it exists dualistically. But in a triangular sense, in a triad, and you can see this all over history because there's trinities everywhere. The biggest two that come to my mind are the Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and then God's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Like, that is an archetypal thing in and of itself. But there's this masculine and there's this feminine quality to reality, and I feel that this last time period, we were developing the masculine mind, the ability, and where did it start? Military. I know this, I was in drumline, and so drumline comes from military as well, and so it was kind of like this direct source, because you can see exactly, and why does that exist? Because you are more efficient in structure. When you have an organized structure to you, you're more powerful, you're more efficient, and also science, because that's the efficiency part. And science and warfare for a long time, they were interconnected, still are obviously. And then so that is the perspective that we're coming from. And even back to agriculture, you had to go out and you had to work the field every day. Why do we get summer breaks? Well, because we lived in there were a lot more farms. And so kids had to go away to like their grandparents or whatever. They had to work the farm. And so everything in our society is sort of built on this structure of structure. But flip, how does nature work? Look at nature. Like really, really look at nature. And it doesn't work like that. It works completely different. But I see that it doesn't work completely different. It works. It's beautiful. Watch nature. It grows. It doesn't create, it grows. And it's the same. And so I feel like the purpose of this last period of time was to develop the intellect, was to be able to discern this from that, to understand what is going on, to create and analyze complex systems and structures and how everything, and be able essentially to go from monkey to God. But that God is the male God. And then now I feel like the goal ahead of us is to embrace Gaia mind. An understanding of the interconnected nature of reality. And this brings me back to home, to where I started, which is that everything exists in and of itself simultaneously while existing in a continuum. And so we've mastered the self. We have enough information to be able to present it to a consciousness, and after that consciousness has encountered that information, it is now smarter, able to perform better in the world, has greater understanding, ... It is better in that way. But if it gets trapped in that, then it gets trapped in that, and it becomes a hell. It becomes this cage. It's not. It goes from being the most beautiful thing. It's a double-edged sword. And so is feminicity, because what is nature? Well, it's a world eat world. It's a world eats world? Listen, man, that's pretty far out. It's an eaten or be eaten world out there. That is nature. There's predator and there's prey. And that is, everything dies. Everything individually dies. And there's an absolute, complete acceptance of death. Not in that way, but that's just a baseline. You have no right to exist as an individual. Your purpose is to serve the greater species. And that is the feminine. And the male is, you are a person. And embrace yourself. Be yourself. That is, although it's and it merges, and I don't understand, but categories and selves, and then greater whole, greater picture. Details, greater picture. And there's nothing really more to this. That's just end of thought, really. I feel like the purpose of so to recap everything that I've said, and then I'll end it. I only meant to make like a 20-minute video, but 40 minutes it is. But to recap everything that I've said, basically, everything exists in and of itself from within a continuum. Because that continuum is far larger than the individual. And the individual came out of the continuum, but now it exists as an individual, and it now has a responsibility because of that level of understanding, which I feel that we are constantly ready to achieve. The individual now has a responsibility to serve the greater whole, such that the greater whole serves it in return. And this is the dance between yin and yang. And I feel like the purpose of the last period of human life was to develop the intellect so that we can go back into nature, into where we came, into the greater continuum, into the cosmos, because you look out at the stars, you look out, like, there is a context that we do exist in, and it is far greater than us and what we think is going on with our societal structures and everything like that. It's real, the real reality. And even what exists behind that, possibly. Like, because if the fractal pattern continues, then this universe exists within a multiverse. And that multiverse, that multiverse can be seen as one thing, in the same way that an atom can be seen as one thing, although it's made up of quarks. And atoms are the structured building blocks to chemistry. And chemistry is the structured building blocks to biology. And biology is the structured building blocks to... And then it builds up. And likewise, you can refine. And so there's no real reason to believe that below the level of the quarks, I believe that's what string theory is, but that there's something more fine than the finest thing that we can discover. Because originally we thought the smallest thing that we could possibly find, we didn't even know germs existed at one point. And then we found germs, and then we discovered, and so it just kept on going. We thought atoms was the smallest thing, and then we found a new smallest thing, and we found a new smallest thing. And so there's no reason to believe that this is not endless. There's also no reason to state that it is endless. It could be finite. It could be reoccurring as well if you take the Hindu mythology of... I also never finished that thought. I feel like if I exist in a universe that was not created in 7 days, but someone who fully believes and is called to heart that the universe was created in 7 days, I feel like they really do live, although we are on the same plane of existence, although the world that we live in right now is the exact same, theirs was created in 7 days. And someone who believes that they will reincarnate, although we are meeting right now in this plane of existence, they will reincarnate and I will do whatever I do. I don't know what I do. But, and so likewise, I believe that all of these universe, all of these realities exist, and they meet on this plane because karma, I guess. There's some reason why they needed to exist here for some reason. And I can view this as the Bodhisattva perspective of I belong in heaven, or angelic or whatever. I belong in heaven, but I voluntarily came down here so that I can serve humanity in the best way that I can. And afterwards, I need not fear, because afterwards I'm just going to be brought back to God. And so there's nothing to worry about. And it's not even that there's nothing to worry about. That is the context in which I'm living my life. And so it's not about sensory gratification. It's not about the self. It's about the greater whole. And that's what gives me the perspective that I have. That's one of the things that gives me the perspective that I have. But it can equally be said that that perspective is why understanding an internal understanding of that quote-unquote concept, of that perspective, is what led me to the life that I want to live from this point on. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. Thank you for listening to me. I was supposed to clean the house today. That's what I am doing. But then I was like, thought. And so, woo. But yeah, so I'm going to get back to clean the house. And then, see you next time. I'm going to show you a thing. Woo! I have a spirit room. It's awesome. And I'm just going to give you a short tour of this, and then that'll be the end of the video. Woo! Just to bring some light in here. So, Om. It makes me so happy. I'm so happy. I haven't had like a consistent practice in a very long time, and that's because I needed to do basically a fractal version of what humanity needed to do, which is develop the intellect. But after I developed the intellect, I needed to understand and accept reality as it is, and I needed to do both simultaneously, and it was this big dance and whatever. But now I'm finally getting back to a point in life where I have practices again. Like I run every day, I sit down right there, and I meditate for 20 to 30 minutes, and then I go on a run. But anyway, Om. Jesus. Girlfriend's little shaman thing. I have mine, but it's in the other room. There's a drum with a drum pad on top of it with a Zen guitar book. There's a guitar, which I'm in the process of learning how to play. And there's some bongos, there's tambourine, there's little tong drum, elephants and monkey statues. Desk. Right now my girlfriend's building a puzzle. And then you've got this it's a library, I guess, an at-home library. I'll just go through these. So you've got the Holy Bible, you've got the Mall of God by Mooji, you've got How Jesus Became God, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Tibetan Yogas for Dream and Sleep, the Tao Te Ching, the I Ching, Alan Watts, the Heart of the Buddhist Teachings, the Dalai, that's by Thich Nhat Hanh. It's by Alan Watts. I think I already said that. But the Dalai Lama's Big Book of Happiness, the Autobiography of a Yogi, the Bhagavad Gita, Sadhguru's Karma, Being Ram Dass, Be Here Now, After the Ecstasy, The Laundry by Jack Kornfield, Awakening the Inner Shaman, Food of the Gods by Terence McKenna, The Spirit Molecule by Rick Strassman, 12 Rules for Life, Jordan Peterson, Brief History of Time and the Universe in a Nutshell by Stephen Hawking, a book on math, and a book on religion. And then I've got The Joy of Being X, which is a math book, but I couldn't fit it down here. And the rest of these are like more literature. But yeah, that's what I've got going for me now. And I'm building a Zen garden in nature, like a life-size Zen garden that I can sit and meditate in. It's beautiful. And so yeah, things are looking no. This moment exists, and that's all I know. And you are here, and I'm here. and I'm happy that you have listened to me. No, I'm just happy. What I'll leave you with this time is silence. Come with me into the silence. Gaining an appreciation for silence, and when seeking arises, directing it towards emptiness, because seeking will arise as ego arises. Direct all seeking towards emptiness and peace. And following that process will lead you to a much more full life, from what I've experienced at least, than anything else will, especially any other chasing.